For the ones who work hard to ensure their crew can always go the extra mile. And the ones who get in early so everyone can go home on time. There's Grainger, offering professional-grade supplies backed by product experts so you can quickly and easily find what you need. Plus, you can count on access to a committed team ready to go the extra mile for you. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Recorded. Conservative talk without apology. The Regular Joe Show with Joe Gigante. Weekday evenings at 9 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app. It's time for Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Good Wednesday morning. You're tuned to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bakken along with, not Jason Speece this morning. Usually Jason joins me, but he's out traveling right now, and we are broadcasting from EPIC, the Energy Progress Innovation Conference put on by BSC, and in conjunction with a lot of great sponsors, a lot of great partners. Matthew Lund joining us from MDU, and you, Matthew, had your roots at BSC. You started out with Bismarck State College, now North Dakota's Polytechnic, and then you are an engineer. You finished up your education at NDSU and came back home, and you're also a committee member on the EPIC conference. Tell us a little bit about that, because I've watched this morph a little bit over the years, and this is a conference, because of where we sit, because of the footprint that BSC has in energy, in innovation. This is a conference that just continues to grow.
Yeah, we were originally the Energy Generation Conference, and in the last couple of years we changed that. Changed our name to the Energy Progress Innovation Conference, and it was just to expand really what we, I guess the group of people we were trying to involve in this conference in providing more than just generation, include transmission, distribution, the fuel supply, trying to pull in more groups within the conference rather than just generation. So
when you're looking at the different avenues of energy, because there is the generation side, there's the innovation side. Lay that out for the listeners. The different aspects, because we've got kind of an all of the above here, and BSC taps into a lot of that. Whether you're looking for line workers or you're looking for somebody to work at one of the power plants or one of the coal operations, wind, BSC covers it all.
Yeah, BSC's programs are exceptional. We've got. I'm not sure how many folks we pull for as far as wind technicians, power plants, maintenance, INC, essentially all the programs, technical programs that BSC offers. We've hired people from every single, avenue that BSC offers. So it's a great program. BSC is an exceptional partner in this conference. They provide us with so much support. We couldn't run this thing without Bismarck State. And as a Bismarck State alumni, that's still my college. I went to North Dakota State, but BSC is still
that's home,
college.
right?
Yeah. That's my home. Yep.
So we talk a little bit about the conference and how that's changed and kind of got a relaunch or a rebranding as energy has grown. You as an alumni with BSC, with Bismarck State College, talk a little bit about how you've seen the change, because we're going through a big change right now with the new mission of Bismarck State College becoming North Dakota's Polytechnic. So when you're looking at that from an alumni, how do you see that playing into some of the industries? Because you work in the energy industry, you work with MDU. So how do you see that setting up the future for the kids in North Dakota that attend BSC and supplying what's needed within industry that is here in North Dakota?
Yeah, maybe I'll speak to MDU. We've morphed as far as our generation over the last 20 years and really diversifying our portfolio, adding renewables, a lot of renewables, and with Bismarck State offering students with training to provide support to our wind farms, for example. That really helps us in pulling local talent keeping people in North Dakota, that's one of the harder things to do. Is if you take individuals from other states, usually they want to go back home. So we have a source in Bismarck and Bismarck State of individuals that get a job with MDU and then stick around, stay in that job.
So the opportunities are here. So, we talk about workforce all the time. What are you seeing with MDU? And you're an engineer, so that program has to kind of outsource a little bit. Great start for the program. Your pathway going to BSc before going to NDSU and finishing up your degree. But those jobs are here. The training to a great extent are here. What would you tell somebody that's looking at getting into the industry, energy industry in any aspect, that is in the Bismarck-Mandan area or in North Dakota in general? From a job perspective, what's out there?
Yeah, the jobs are here. And I think, as kids in high school, I think there's this thought that you need to get away from home, when you go for college. I think you
had the best of both worlds.
Well, so as Bismarck native, I was able to stay at home. My mom convinced me to save some money and go to Bismarck State, and it was the best college decision that I made. BSc offered an exceptional program with small classes. It was great. And then the opportunities once I was done and finished the remaining portion of my degree and come back, I had multiple job offers coming out of college. And Bismarck was a great place for me. So, I've come full circle. It's the opportunities are here, and the program is here with BSc. So, if you want a great paying job with reasonable hours and good companies, companies that have been around for a long time, a lot of years, going into these technical programs is a great avenue for people's future.
We're talking with Matthew Lund with MDU, BSc alumni, NDSU alumni, and came right back here. I want to talk to him a little bit about his work experience with NDSU or with MDU when we come back from the break. Also, a big project that he's been working on as well with MDU right in our backyard. This is Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken. We're broadcasting from the EPIC Conference, Energy Progress and Innovation at the Bismarck Event Center. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Talk of the Town, brought to you by Big Boy. Just get in line. It moves fast. Dakota Pharmacy and Dakota Natural Health Center. We're here to help you stay well. Trademark Realty, Peak Automotive and Service, and Silver Ranch. Super Talk. Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
You're tuned to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bakken on a Wattage Wednesday, broadcasting from EPIC, the Energy Progress and Innovation Conference. Big event when you start talking about the different aspects of energy and how that plays into North Dakota and from a national perspective as well. We're talking with Matthew Lund with MDU. He's also on the EPIC committee and former BSc alumni, NDSU graduate in engineering. Matthew, I wanted to spend a couple minutes just talking a little bit about something that, maybe some people have a lot of questions about right here in our own backyard is Heskett Station. So that was a project that was more of a reinvention. A lot of people had the perception that, they're just tearing down this power generation facility, but that's really not what the case was. It was kind of a reinvention of the power generation facility.
Yeah, well, specifically, we tore down the two coal-fired units. I think Heskett 1 was built in 1954, and Heskett 2 was built in 1959, roughly.
Definitely got the life out of them.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely exceeded the life expectancy of the plants. Those plants ran exceptionally well. However, when you look at, say, converting to natural gas-fired, converting a boiler over from coal to natural gas isn't actually the most efficient way to operate on natural gas. So what we did was actually tore those down and installed a new simple cycle combustion turbine. The heat rates on those is significantly better than a coal-fired unit running on that's converted over to natural gas. And so it's a capacity resource, so we use it when it's really cold or really hot out. It's the sister unit to Heskett 3 that was built and commissioned in 2014.
So it for terminology for people, it's peaking unit.
That's correct. Yep. Both units are peaking units.
So what does that mean from a grid perspective? Walk us through what a peaking unit does and the intent for that, because you mentioned the efficiency that's involved with not doing a conversion and just actually doing the investment and doing a ground-up build. The rationale behind the peaking is to offset some of the wind energy and some of the other non-traditional energy sources that we have. You need those because when it's 35 below, wind turbines aren't turning. But that's why you need the peaking stations.
Yeah, and then we actually saw that here recently with the cold spell. The wind turbines have a certain temperature that they get to. If it's negative 20-some degrees, they do have to shut down. So, one of the reasons why the coal units were tore down is just the operating costs on coal were higher than what we can purchase from the market power from the market. And so what MDU is required to do, we have to meet a certain capacity generation for our overall portfolio. And we're part of MISO, which is, the transmission operator. So anyway, with MISO, we're able to purchase power from the entire MISO. And that has been, for the number of years, been cheaper to purchase off the market than operating those coal units. So we still need to cover our capacity and make sure we have enough power for our customers during the hot days and the cold days, or if there's transmission congestion or another power unit goes down for some reason. We need to make sure we have enough power to supply our customers, and we do that with these peaking units.
Well, and the investment into the efficiencies, too. Talk a little bit about why this project's so important, because we see how the coal industry has been maneuvered around. And as a utility, MDU's main focus is how do you provide cheap, efficient power at a rate that people can afford, because you're a utility. So you're there to make money, but it's also you have to do it efficiently and affordably.
Yeah, we're a regulated utility, so if we build anything, we have to go to the Public Service Commission. Usually before we build it, we go in.
How is this going to benefit the customers?
Advanced determination of prudence. We tell them what we plan. Here's all the options we look at. We do that through our integrated resource plan, where we model new generation based on our load forecasts. Once we do additional analysis, we go to the Public Service Commission and say, hey, this is what we plan to build based on the analysis that we performed and what we expect for load growth. And then from there, the Public Service will tell us, hey, yeah, I think this is likely the least cost resource, most reliable and least cost resource for your customers. And we agree that when you're done, you're more than likely to come back in, and we'll agree to some sort of capital reimbursement. It's not the right terminology, but you'll be able to earn on the capital investment. Yeah,
so basically you're getting rewarded for doing good by your consumers.
Yeah, I think it was something around, $20 million or something that was in savings in building Heskett 4 and taking down Heskett Unit 1 and 2 coal facilities.
So this is your baby as far as being fully online. I know this is a project that when you're working with new builds and new innovation and new technology, take a little longer than planned sometimes. But where's the project at as far as coming to completion? Because that's going to be a huge benefit to consumers.
Yeah, we are still working on commissioning and startup. The technology that we installed has been around for decades in this unit, so it's an efficient combustion turbine. But one of the main reasons we picked it is because there's thousands of these units installed throughout the world, and so reliability was a key issue. We want to make sure that if a unit's called on within MISO, that it actually gets started and operates and provides power. So that's the reason, one of the main reasons we picked this unit, plus the sister unit to it is the same exact turbine. So we tried to get those efficiencies in installing both units, that our operators understand how to work on it. There's a variety of reasons. Cost, obviously, is a big one on why we installed that unit. But we ran into some issues during startup and commissioning that we're currently working through, and we're hoping to have the unit back online in the near future.
Well, I'm sure it's in good hands. Well, yours, of course. Yeah,
we sure try. We've got a lot of help, a lot of good people in MDU.
Where do you see this conference? Because as a committee member, and I'm going to ask all the committee members this throughout the day, but as a committee member, where do you see this conference, where it's come from, where it is now, and where's it going in the future? Because there's so much technology, so much innovation out there.
Yeah, it's definitely morphed. It's changed. I mean, initially it was mostly the local coal facilities sending their operators, maintenance guys, management to the conference. As the industry has changed and generation has changed, and the number of power plants that are operating in North Dakota has changed, so does the conference have to change. So we're trying to get additional folks that also support distribution, transmission, more of the renewables. Just trying to include or broaden the conference in general to get more individuals here and individuals that can take something from the conference.
Well, Matthew, thank you very much for putting this conference on right here in Bismarck. Of course, a huge piece to our energy portfolio in North Dakota. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Matthew Lund with MDU. He's also a committee member for EPIC, the Energy Progress and Innovation Conference. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk with Isaac Orr, friend of the program. When we come back, this is Talk of the Town, broadcasting on a Wattage Wednesday from the Bismarck Events Center and EPIC on Super Talk 1270.
Program schedule, updated local news, sports, contests, and more. Visit today at supertalk1270.com.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
You're tuned to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bakken. Joining us on the program, broadcasting from EPIC, the Energy Progress and Innovation Conference on Super Talk 1270 on a Wattage Wednesday. And Isaac Orr, friend of the program, joining us. Haven't talked for a while, Isaac. Nice to see you again. Isaac, of course, was the center of the American Experiment, and you do a lot of work in the energy sector promoting, I refuse to call them fossil fuels, they're traditional energy sources, which are viable and remain viable today. And there's a big push out there. We see this with the Biden administration and from the globalist agenda. I mean, just take a look what happened over at Davos with the World Economic Forum, doubling down on climate change and trying to, instead of having improvements in ecology, instead of having improvements in industry, just trying to remake the whole thing in somebody else's image, and that doesn't work. I mean, when you pull the rug out of traditional energy sources and try to go down a road that you're not ready to go down yet, people die. There's ramifications for that. So keep up the good fight and representing. One of the things you're working on right now, I want to talk about is the coal industry specifically is really having to deal with a lot of EPA regulations, not today, but what's coming. And you're working on a lot of modeling to offset that and really tell the true story.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you lost my number, I can give it back to you. So I can be on the show more frequently. You just got to let me know. So what we're doing is we have been modeling the impact of the Biden administration's EPA regulations for the North Dakota Transmission Authority. So we've looked at several of them, and we were talking off air. It's a death by 1,000 paper cut strategy, right? So what EPA is doing is they're trying
give
to
an inch and they'll take 20 miles.
Well, yeah, and they're trying to put so much uncertainty into the market when it comes to generating electricity that these utility companies get scared and they just say, okay, I'm not going to deal with these, like upgrading my coal facility in order to keep it going.
Well, and you look at coal, and I kind of equate coal industry as that big cruise ship or that big super tanker or container ship. It takes a long way to turn. So if you're going to have to navigate in a different direction, 5, 6, 7 years to start planning that out, because it is a slow-moving industry. It's not nimble like a lot of other industries are. So you have to plan ahead. And that's the brilliance, and whether you want to get into the theories or not, that this is Obama's third term with Biden. But that was the brilliance of that agenda against traditional energy sources with the Obama administration. They never set the rules.
Right.
So
We're just
you didn't.
agents of chaos.
Yes, you didn't know how to navigate it. If you give industry, here's the rules, they'll figure out a way.
Exactly. But
But
if you keep
there were-
changing the rules, they can't. And that's
Or
exactly
not
what
giving the
Biden
rules.
is doing right
Yes.
now. Yeah. So the most imminent threat, I would say right now, to the North Dakota coal industry is the mercury and air toxic standards, right? So this is a continuation of an Obama era rule. And when the Obama administration was in office, they said, okay, well, lignite plants have they're dealing with a different chemical composition of the coal, and that makes it more difficult to remove the mercury from the stack as it's coming out, right? So there was an exception for the lignite power plants. And the Biden administration is saying, we're getting rid of this subcategory. Essentially, we're saying lignite plants, regardless of whether it's technologically feasible or not, need to achieve the same level of mercury emissions as a bituminous coal plant, right? So if you're burning Powder River Basin or something along those lines, this is going to be very onerous to comply with. So, we got a lot of smart people working on the problem, but what we've been doing is saying, well, if this causes a plant to shut down, and nobody said that, right? But, the reason you run models is you run different hypothetical situations. So if you were to lose 1,000 megawatts or 2,200 megawatts of this lignite-fired coal capacity in MISO, Mid-Continent Independent Systems Operator, what would that do for blackouts moving forward? And what my colleague Mitch and I found is, okay, well, it's not going to increase the number of blackouts, but it will make them more severe. So the EPA thinks that we're going to be able to run the grid on wind turbines, solar panels, and battery storage, right? So this is what they said in their carbon plan. We also did some work with the Transmission Authority on that. So we've been very active in pushing back against these regulations based on their reliability and cost implications. But wind and solar don't always work very well, right?
We just had a cold snap. It
Exactly.
was 35 below, and they stopped moving.
Yeah, and this was in Alberta too. I don't know if you saw anything what happened there, but they were very close to having blackouts in Canada.
Yeah, well, they were having rolling brownouts.
Yeah,
is what they were doing.
Conservation notices.
Yeah.
They were importing as much power as they possibly could because it was too cold for their wind turbines to operate. So,
and what people don't understand
Yeah.
is when you're importing all that power without having the peaking capacity, like we were just talking about with our last guest, is that gets expensive to consumers.
Absolutely.
So do you want to eat or you want to not freeze to death?
Yeah, I mean, not great choices, Steve.
No.
So, yeah, we're basically, the state of North Dakota has been very upfront about challenging these rules in court. So that's essentially what we're doing, is helping them establish a record and saying, look, if you move forward with this regulation, if you finalize this regulation as it's written, this is going to be the impact on reliability moving forward. So it's really exciting stuff on our end, right? And this is the kind of stuff that people don't think about because they think milk comes from the store and they think power comes from the outlet, right? So I grew up on a dairy farm in Wisconsin. That's like my favorite hokey phrase, right? But it's true, right? Like we've been accustomed to having reliable electricity around the clock for so long that a lot of us take it for granted, right? I don't know if anybody really quite understood what makes the grid work.
But there's been a paradigm shift, and I don't like where that paradigm is going from the agenda on the left, is that their contention is we shouldn't be able to take it for granted. But yeah, we should. That shouldn't change.
100%.
We should be able to take it for granted.
It should be Ron Popeil's, what was that appliance? The set it and forget it, right? I don't remember the appliance.
I'm just remembering the hairspray one.
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
a little bald spot, spray it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
he had a lot of stuff.
Yeah, Billy Mays. Bam.
Yeah, bam.
Wait, that was Emerald, the chef. But that's really not important to what we're talking about. But
it's the paradigm shift.
Yep.
They're trying to change culture.
Yep.
Is what they're doing, and it's funny. When I was mayor of Bismarck, I got roped into these White House Intergovernmental Affairs Committee, and every Thursday,
Yep.
and there was about 65 people on these calls, and I think I held my tongue for about 3 meetings.
Yeah.
And because nobody on those calls had any concept of farm to market or farm to table, or that energy didn't come from that switch on the wall, or that food didn't come from the grocery store.
Yep.
And that goes back to the educational piece. And that's where the Center of the American Experiment really is stepping into a big void.
Oh, absolutely. We're stepping up our efforts in North Dakota as well. If you want to go to AmericanExperimentND.org, you can learn about everything we're doing. And I got a boogie. I'm on a panel.
Isaac,
thanks for
pleasure.
having me.
And I'm going to try to catch one of your panels a little bit later today, but we'll definitely have you on to continue this conversation down the road.
Sounds great.
So,
thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Isaac. Isaac Orr, Center of the American Experiment. I'm Steve Bakken. We're broadcasting from EPIC, the Energy Progress and Innovation Conference taking place here with all the different levels of energy that we produce here in North Dakota, and workforce is one of those components that really plays into the ability to continue that quality of life that we have, because I'm serious about that paradigm shift that's been taking place and changing culture. We should be able to just live in a world where, no, there is no question when you flip the switch, there is power there. But there's a lot of things that take place behind the scenes to try to make sure that that's the case. Workforce, we're going to talk about that coming up next with Brian Ellersick of Train ND on the industry side. This is Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken on a Wattage Wednesday, broadcasting from EPIC at the Bismarck Events Center on Super Talk 1270.
Talk of the Town, brought to you by Big Boy, just get in line. It moves fast. Dakota Pharmacy and Dakota Natural Health Center. We're here to help you stay well. Trademark Realty, Peak Automotive and Service, and Silver Ranch.
Super Talk.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
You're tuned to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bakken, broadcasting from the EPIC Conference, Energy Progress and Innovation Conference, taking place at the Bismarck Event Center today and tomorrow. And joining us in the program, Brian Ellersick with Train ND, Southwest Division. And Brian, you work on the industry side, so I want to talk a little bit about workforce. A lot of great programs. Of course, we know CDLs are at a premium. If you want to get your CDL and go down that road, there's a lot of opportunities out there.
Yeah, definitely, Steve. Thanks for having me. At Bismarck State College, we have our CDL program. We just started our third year. Last year, we put 92 students through with their CDL. We have a 2 and a 3 week class. 2-week class is more for those experienced, and then the 3-week for those that are a little more green. But yeah, we offer a 120-hour program. Along with that entry-level driver training, you get your hazmat endorsement as well. So you mentioned 2 versus 3 week courses for those with a little experience. Is that like a going back to school opportunity, or is that or somebody that's maybe been let their CDL lapse, or is it more about whether or not you're going to upgrade from a CDL B to a CDL A or get the endorsements? So whether you're upgrading from a B to an A, you're still going to have to go through that program. It's more for those industry guys that have driven truck before, those farmers that have been driving truck their whole life, but they need that formal training to get their Class A CDL. You will get those endorsements in both programs, but with a lot of industry now having to put their workers through, they're sending their employees through that 2 week just to kind of get them in and out a little bit quicker, but they have been driving truck their whole life. If you have let your license lapse, you are grandfathered in. You don't have to go through that formal training, but you will have to take the refresher course, and we do offer that as well.
Endorsements, when people are thinking about CDLs, it's like, oh, I got my CDLA, but depending on what you're going to do with that CDL, there's a lot of different endorsements that need to go along with that license.
Yep, so you get your hazmat endorsement, your tanker endorsement, or your doubles and triples. At the college, we'll prepare you for all 3 of those endorsements. If you're going into hazmat, you're probably going to be driving a tanker, so those kind of 2 go together. With your doubles and triples, all that is getting you prepared to take your endorsement test at the DMV, which is just that written test.
Yeah, and the doubles and triples more the freight side of sorts. With the hazmat or the tanker. Great opportunities out in the oil field right now. If they are begging for people with a CDL and those endorsements. Yep,
and they're paying great money along with it. So we have sent a handful of students up to the oil patch this year, and we've had great stories coming back down from them that they're doing great, and they are very thankful to come through our program to get that training.
The other side of that, too, when you start talking about the oil patch and some of the other industry out there, welding. Welding is a huge need.
Yep, and we offer, obviously at Bismarck State College for a degree, you could get your associates in welding, but if you are already employed through either a power plant or the oil field at Train ND, we offer, we do a lot of certifications. We have our mobile welding trailer that we are taking on the road to the different power plants. We're going over to Great River Energy Spiritwood Station here at the end of February to offer an 80-hour training to get their employees certified. So you could either come to us. We have a welding shop with 18 booths, or we could take our trailer to you and get you certified that way.
So that's one of the other parts about the business side of things too, because there's a lot of industries out there, but they're like, hey, I don't have the time to let my employees go spend some time in Bismarck. That's where that opportunity for you to go to them, that really comes down to a lot of great partnerships in a lot of different industries.
Yep. Yeah. When we've built, a lot of our partners are here at the Energy Conference, but over the years we have worked with all the power plants, the mines, and industry just in general. Then we've built those relationships, and that way they could continue. Their employees could continue to work, and when they have time, they'll pop in the booth, get their certifications done, and they're not having to stay in a hotel here in Bismarck. We come to them and help them out that way.
The other thing too, you're starting a new program, firefighting training.
Yes, so we are starting that. Training begins February 27th. It's a non-credit firefighter Type 2 training. It'll prepare students to serve on a hand crew, an engine crew, or a heli-tac crew, performing fire suspension, fuel management duties in adverse climate, fuel and terrain conditions. So this is great for a full-time employed or those college students that are just looking for a summertime gig. Training is only $300. It's a 52-hour training course. It includes 56 hours of in-person training and 8 hours of online training.
So we hear a lot in North Dakota because if you're out in rural North Dakota, rural firefighters,
yep.
and a huge need there. Is this something that checks that box for rural firefighters?
This is exactly something that checks that box. It'll prepare you to work on that federal firefighting crew, or just for your those rural crews as well. Yep.
So a big need, a big void, a great way with BSC and Train ND trying to fill that void and a workforce shortage, and something that really opportunity to get back to your community, because I know a lot of farmers, a lot of ranchers that are on the rural fire just because that's how they take care of their neighbors and that's how they get back to their community. So a great opportunity there to learn that aspect of it and get some pretty good training.
Yep, good training and make some pretty good money while you're at it. So to get those great opportunity for those young college students looking for something over the summer to help fill that void and to kind of get their feet wet to where they grow up and they're helping their communities out wherever they go. So,
Brian, if somebody wants more information about any of those great programs, how do they contact you?
You could email us at bismarckstate.edu/trainnd, or you could give us a call at 701-224-5600.
Well, thank you, Brian. Brian Ellersick, Train ND industry side of things, working on CDL, welding, firefighting, fire trading, some great opportunities out there. If you're looking at kind of that supplemental education or want to change career paths a little bit, maybe go down a different road or an opportunity like with the firefighting to get back to the community, great opportunities there. So make sure you contact Train ND through BSC, Bismarck State College, North Dakota's Polytechnic. A great opportunity to get some training, affordable education, and give back, have an opportunity to get back to your community or your state, depending on the industry you're going into. Some great speakers going on at EPIC. We're broadcasting from the EPIC Conference, Energy Progress Innovation Conference here at the Bismarck Event Center. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk with Robert Bryce, Power Hungry Podcast, one of the keynote speakers here this morning. We'll get all the details on his take on energy. That's coming up next. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Talk of the Town, weekday mornings starting at 9 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app.
KLXX AM, Mandan, Bismarck, a Town Square media station, broadcasting from the View Community Credit Union Studio.
Recorded. The Todd Starnes Daily Update. Weekday mornings at 11:30 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 app. Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
You're tuned to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bakken, broadcasting from EPIC Energy Progress and Innovation Concerts here at the Bismarck Events Center, put on by BSC and the EPIC Committee, as well as in conjunction with Train ND and a lot of other great partners. One of the keynote speakers today, joining us on the program, Robert Bryce from the Power Hungry podcast. Robert, thanks for joining us this morning.
Happy to be with you, Steve.
So we'll get on the podcasting side of it a
Sure.
little bit here in just a few minutes, but basically what you speak on, there's a front to traditional energy sources. I refuse to call them fossil fuels. So they're
Right.
traditional energy sources.
Yeah.
And there's trying to be a paradigm shift, and this climate agenda, climate change is behind it. Whether you're looking at what took place at COP28 or the World Economic Forum in Davos, it seems like they're doubling down on the term climate change, because that term continues to shift.
Sure. Well, it's interesting you talk about traditional energy. I call coal, oil, and natural gas hydrocarbons, right? I think that's a better term. It's
Right.
a more accurate term.
Carbon, the building block of life. Yep.
Hydrocarbons. But yes, a lot of my work is focused on these claims about the energy transition, and that was the caption for my talk today. The energy transition. What energy transition? And the reality is that for all of the talk about this, and there is an enormously expensive and ongoing campaign that the Biden administration is part of, and I say that as not as a partisan, as someone as an observer. It's very clear there's been a very very pointed and expensive effort to promote the idea that we're in the midst of an energy transition, and the reality is the numbers don't show it.
So when you look at the numbers, the real numbers, not the numbers promoted by mainstream media, by agendas, because I have this big problem when political agendas get politicized. It's dangerous. Bad things happen when agendas get politicized. That's what we're going through right now. Is we have an agenda, and where's it coming from?
Right.
The question I've got is we've got the politics engaged now, but the agenda itself, and if you want to get into the conspiracy theory about globalists and global agendas, but where is it really coming from?
I don't want to get into that because
No.
that's a lot of presumption.
But where's it really coming from?
It's about the money. Follow the money. Let's get down. Let's be serious, right? About what's driving this agenda?
Power, control, and money.
Right, but let's start with the money because that's the easiest to explain. So I presented this morning, and I'm presenting again tomorrow here at the EPIC conference. Just look at the amount of subsidies, federal subsidies for solar versus nuclear. I'm adamantly pro-nuclear. If we're serious about climate change, serious about reducing
Nuclear.
CO2,
Yep.
we have to be serious
Absolutely.
about nuclear. And I would say that regardless of what you think about climate change, if only because we need more power all around the world, more electricity. But the subsidies that are now going to solar are 300 times greater on a per unit of energy basis than are going to nuclear.
Well, and we just saw this through wind.
Yeah.
Solar's the next one.
Right.
So what's the next one after
and
that?
the subsidies for wind are more than 100 times those given to hydrocarbons. So, or about 70 times more than hydrocarbons. The wind subsidies are about 150 times greater than those given to nuclear. So, follow the money. Why are so many companies interested in building wind and solar? Well,
The goal line keeps
It's
moving.
because that's where they can get the tax credits, tax subsidies to build them, and that's what
We're seeing that with CO2 sequestration right
we're
now.
saying it with the same thing under the Inflation Reduction Act, whether it's hydrogen, CCS, whether it's electric vehicles, all of this. I call it alt energy, right? Alternative energy. All of it is queuing up to grab as much federal money, as much taxpayer money as they can, and it's not just in the power sector. ExxonMobil, a lot of big companies are doing this as well. So, we could speculate about all these other things, but the reality is that it comes down to the money. And since we're talking about my project today and my speaking today, want to give a plug to my upcoming docuseries. It'll be out a week from today. It's called Juice, Power, Politics, and the Grid. Will be out. We'll publish it for free on YouTube beginning a week from today, and I'm really proud of it. 5 parts. It's going to be free on YouTube. Look at juicetheseries.com. Each episode's about 20 minutes, but we are focusing on the fragilization of the grid and this massive investment in weather-dependent renewables. This is malinvestment. And if we're serious about stabilizing the grid, affordable, reliable electricity, we need to get serious about nuclear power.
The narrative keeps changing, so they keep changing the goal line, and the narrative is what keeps changing. I remember having some conversations probably 15 years ago where there was some legitimate discussion on how you stabilize the grid and some of that smart grid technology, and it just stopped. It stopped because the money wasn't there. Again, following the money. I go back 15 years and start taking a look when there was a lot of movement in hybrid vehicles.
Yeah.
And then the government subsidized that out of the way because there was more money in the non-traditional energy sources, the solar, the electric, the wind. They didn't want to go down that road because it didn't fit the narrative. It didn't fit the agenda. When you're looking at the energy portfolio, the energy perspective, how dangerous is it to get pigeonholed into a narrative instead of doing what's tried, true, and works and making that more efficient?
Well, it's interesting you talk about that because as you're talking about that, Steve, what comes to mind is the enormous divide between urban America and rural America. So we're in North Dakota, and one of the points I made today, North Dakota has the fewest number of electric vehicles of any state in America. It also has the fewest EVs per capita of any state in America.
Well, we just had a cold snap. It was 30, 35 below.
Right.
We just saw what happened on the East Coast.
Right.
They didn't work.
Right, exactly. So why would North Dakotans be interested in electric vehicles? They're not, because it doesn't make any sense here. Meanwhile, in California, there's something like 25 times more EVs per capita in California. Nationwide, there's 9 times more EVs per capita. So what I see, and I take your point about the narrative, but what I see is this kind of creeping corporatism. And I say that with no pleasure, but I think that's what it is, that we're seeing a lot of big moneyed interests, and their interests aren't in rural America. Their interest in rural America is only in building high voltage transmission, building more wind and solar projects, and I've documented the backlash against wind and solar projects all across America, including here in here in North Dakota. In Billings County in 2016, the rejection of a wind project near Theodore Roosevelt National Park. Right, so there is a very clear clash in the culture in America, but I think it's urban rural, it's corporate versus small landowners, it's left versus right, Republican versus Democrat, but it's also a class issue.
So you're based down in Texas, so
That's
you
right.
have a lot of the similar energy portfolios that North Dakota has.
Right.
There's a lot of synergy between.
Yeah.
I look at West Texas and the Permian and Western North Dakota and the Bakken, and a lot of similarities. Same cloth.
We have solar.
Yeah.
You don't.
Yeah, but when you're looking at that disconnect between rural and urban, does that come back to an educational piece? Because I take a look, and I've had these conversations with the urban side versus the rural side, and there's a disconnect. Where does my food come from? Where does my energy come from? There's a big disconnect on the urban side, and I put that back to education. How important is the educational piece where people aren't being told what the actual mechanism that they're surviving comes from?
I don't know if it's education, Steve, or it's tribalism and the political divide, right? Because let's look at it from a land use or geographic perspective. Where do the Republicans get their votes? Trump won something like 2,500 counties in 2020, and Biden won about 500, right? The Democrats focus their efforts on the cities, right? That's one reason why they want to abolish many of them want to abolish the Electoral College, right? They don't want to have to deal with having to campaign in small states in New Hampshire, North Dakota, wherever else, right? They want to concentrate all their efforts in the cities. That's where they get their votes. That's where they get their money. So, yes, I think education is part of it, but a lot of this, I would say, is tribalism around their political identification. And I mentioned EVs before. Cal Berkeley study came out just a few months ago. I wrote about it, and I testified before the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee, or sent written testimony January 11th. About half of all the electric vehicles in America go to a handful of heavily Democratic counties in America. I mean, so there is very much a tribalism and a political divide that also is a geographic divide in America that matches the issues that we're talking about here.
We're talking with Robert Bryce, Power Hungry Podcast. If you got time, I'd love to hold you over the break.
Sure, of course.
A lot to divulge here and a lot to unpack. And when we come back from the break, I want to talk a little bit about the one-size-fits-all. North Dakota never fits under the blanket with one-size-fits-all, but that's what they're trying to cum to from a national perspective. I want to talk about that when we come back. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bakken, broadcasting from the EPIC Conference, Energy Progress and Innovation Conference here at the Bismarck Event Center. 2-day conference. If you want to check out online and find out some of the keynote speakers, some of the different classroom work that you can take a look at. A lot of opportunity here, and you can sign up for a one-day conference as well. This is Talk of the Town on a Wattage Wednesday. I'm Steve Bakken on Super Talk 1270.
Talk of the Town, brought to you by Big Boy. Just get in line. It moves fast. Dakota Pharmacy and Dakota Natural Health Center. We're here to help you stay well. Trademark Realty, Peak Automotive and Service, and Silver Ranch.
Super Talk 1270.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
You're tuned to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bakken, broadcasting from EPIC Energy Progress Innovation Conference here at the Bismarck Event Center. Robert Bryce joining us with the Power Hungry Podcast. Robert, we were talking about going into the break, and one of the things in North Dakota, we were talking about different aspects of energy and energy policy and a paradigm shift that's trying to be pushed. Again, follow the money. We're talking about electric vehicles and
Sure.
what takes place in California or on the coast versus rural America. North Dakota, you don't see a lot of them, but they're trying to be pushed. One thing North Dakota's never fallen under at all is one size fits all anything. When
Sure.
you've got federal policy, and I can even extrapolate that out from a state level onto other political subdivisions, and just doesn't work in North Dakota. That one size fits all, throwing a blanket over the entire country, that discrepancy between urban and rural and the coasts and the heartland, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, and it's something I see. I'm privileged in my career, Steve. I do a lot of public speaking. I did 40-some engagements last year, so I spent a lot of time in rural America. I was in Kearney, Nebraska. In fact, we were talking about it just a minute ago. I was in Kearney, Nebraska, speaking to the Nebraska Public Power Association on the same day that the COP28 meeting started in Dubai. And I told them as I got up there, I said, "Is it possible to get any further away from COP28 than here in Kearney, Nebraska?" Right?
And that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I suppose geographically you could find a place on Earth that's further away, right? But in terms of a cultural, political standpoint, this divide, I think, is only growing wider. And it's about politics, it's about family, it's about culture, it's about church going, it's about Republican versus Democrat, but it really manifests itself when it comes to energy and energy policy. And it also comes down to land use around, we were talking about pipelines, CO2 pipelines, oil and gas pipelines, high voltage transmission, wind and solar projects. All of these things, energy policy is determined by land use policy and vice versa. So this is clearly playing out here in North Dakota in a big way.
The solar side of stuff too, and not very practical here. I view solar as, okay, one-offs if you're going to help augment power with a building or a facility,
right? And
you can do rooftop stuff, great. But you see these massive fields, and unless you're in the desert, they really don't. Well, they don't pencil out anyway, but they don't make a lot of sense from a practical for putting these solar fields out.
Yeah.
I drive down to Minneapolis quite often for work, and I drive by these big solar fields. Well, in the winter,
right,
covered in snow,
exactly,
not doing a damn thing.
And I have solar panels, and I have solar panels on the roof of my house in Austin.
Yeah, and why did they make sense?
Yeah, and why did I do it? I got 3 different subsidies.
Yes.
Right? So I'm opposed to all subsidies unless I'm getting them, right? So that's the way it works, right? But I think this is some of the things. I'll just make another plug for my docuseries, juicetheseries.com. My docuseries will be out a week from today. Juice, Power Politics, and the Grid. But we talk about this. We talk about the amount of subsidies that are going to wind and solar and how much money is in it. And we also talk about the fact that these are reducing the reliability of the electric grid. And this is a very serious issue here for North Dakota because of the war on coal. And it is very clearly a war on coal, and that is being funded it's not just the federal government that is trying to reduce coal-fired generation. Michael Bloomberg in September gave $500 million to the Beyond Carbon campaign, and now we see Sierra Club suing Basin Electric, try and prevent them from using coal. This is a very serious issue, and it's not just government that is doing this. It's these climate-focused NGOs, and they're being backed by some of the richest people in the world. So we have to be very clear about not just following the money on terms of the subsidies, but following the money from the anti-industry side, the anti-industry, which is very powerful.
How complicit is other industries, though? Because I take a look at oil and gas. Of course, we're blessed with a great deal of oil and gas here in North Dakota with the Bakken shale play. And many of us around the industries have said, you need to pay attention to what's going on in coal because you're next. And the industry, the oil and gas industry, has been a little complicit in the fact that they're like, no, wait a minute, they're picking on coal, so they're leaving us alone.
Right.
But you're next. It's that death by 1,000 paper cuts is basically what it is, and you're next. When they're done with coal, you're next.
Yeah, I think that I take your point. I'll counter with just this one thought, which is, yes, there's no doubt that this administration, and I'm not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I'm disgusted. This administration is the most anti-hydrocarbon administration in American history. And yet, what do we see? It's incredible resilience. Oil and gas production in the United States is the highest it's ever been. We're at over 13 million barrels a day of oil production in America. It's the most oil ever produced by any country ever in history. So I take your points, but I'll counter it by just reminding people that for all of this opposition, for all of this friction, this is an incredibly resourceful industry that continues to make these massive rather small incremental technological improvements that are adding up to enormous increases in production. And who wins here? It's the consumer. So natural gas at $2.50, something like that. Gasoline today, $2.60 a gallon, and still incredibly cheap. And, this one thought, we finish with this, but it just, for all of the challenges facing the United States, I'm still incredibly bullish on this country. We still have enormous advantages over the rest of the world when it comes to geography, demographics, and in particular energy and energy availability.
But they're under attack.
Oh, there's no doubt. I will grant that. There is no doubt. But remarkable, despite all this friction, that the industry is still doing remarkably well. The challenge now, to be clear, is for the coal industry in North Dakota to fight back and say, no, this is absolutely essential for our reliability, affordability, resilience. They have to fight back, and that is an incredibly difficult challenge because the other side, the anti-industry industry, has so much money and so much sympathy in the media.
So where we're at right now from the amount of production, and so incredibly blessed, and you're right, the industry has been incredibly resourceful. Would you deem us as energy independent, though, despite those numbers?
No, and I've written a whole book. I published it in 2008 on the myth of energy independence.
Right.
It's called Gusher of Lies, The Dangerous Delusions of Energy Independence.
Great book, by the way. If you have not read it, I strongly suggest reading it. Great book.
Read them all. All 6 of them. You don't have to read them. You just have to buy them, Steve. That's it. So, but we're not independent. We're not energy independent. We export, we import.
Is that attainable?
We live in an interdependent world. It has to be. It has to be. Well, and one of the reasons why, so we sell now, the U.S. is a major supplier of LNG into Europe, and lucky for Europe that we have the gas to export to them. So are they dependent on us or are we dependent on them? Right? We're interdependent. And that
symbiotic relationship.
Yes, symbiotic relationship. But I agree that this incredible surge of production because of shale gas and shale oil, incredibly positive for U.S. in terms of overall geopolitics, that we're not as beholden to OPEC, the Persian Gulf, the Iranians, the Russians, etc. And now with the Russia-Ukraine war, that the U.S. can help fill the gap in Europe for natural gas that they're going to need for a long time to come.
Robert Bryce, Power Hungry Podcast. If somebody wants to follow the podcast, where do they go?
You can go to powerhungrypodcast.com. Also, check out my new docuseries, juicetheseries.com.
And that'll be on YouTube.
It'll be on YouTube beginning January 31st, but you can check out the website now.
Looking forward to it. Robert, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks a million, Steve.
This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bakken on a Wattage Wednesday, broadcasting from EPIC, the Energy Progress Innovation Conference at the Bismarck Event Center on Super Talk 1270.
Your destination news and ideas. RM World Travel. Sunday morning, starting at 5 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app. Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
From Epic Energy Progress Innovation Conference, joining us on the program right now, Troy Karlberg, the 2024 chair. He's with Minn Kota Power. Safety and security are your focuses when you're not here at Epic with Minn Kota. So you work on a lot of different spaces. Safety, of course, anywhere in the energy industry, that's first and foremost at the forefront. Safety first with any of our energy industries. The security side is something that's really changed over the last 5 years, and hopefully we'll have a couple seconds to talk about that as well. But I want to talk about Epic. And Epic went through a metamorphosis several years ago, a new name, a new focus. It's come a long way, and it's really become the go-to in the energy sectors here in North Dakota. And we've got a fingerprint in everything. But that's really been the focus of Epic moving forward. Where do you see Epic from yesterday to today to going towards tomorrow with what's going on in the energy sector?
Yeah, and I can say the original Epic started back in 1978, so this conference has been around a lot of years, and this is our 45th conference. And with that, we in 2020 as a committee members, we voted to change our name from the Energy Generation Conference to the Energy Progress Innovation Conference. And the reason we did that was to diversify a little more on our energy needs in our region, to expand out to wind and potentially solar, but predominantly Energy Generation Conference years ago was pretty much power plant, coal-based. Now we're expanding that out to
more the industry side of stuff and some of the technical stuff. But with the diversity in the energy sector, especially in North Dakota, the innovation side is huge.
It is. And this conference is a great reason why we keep this going, is to have breakout sessions. It allows our workers to come to these sessions for the conference and get educated on the newest and latest trends and innovation in the energy industry, and it allows them to come back to our plants and industries and share that information.
One of the biggest things I've seen is the change in not only who's here, who's learning, because this is a learning conference first and foremost, but the vendors and the workforce side. There's so many different aspects that Epic is now able to grow into that it was more of an industry, kind of a one big breakout session, one working session for what's going on within the industry, but it's gotten to so many different other areas. You take a look at the different industries, whether, we were talking to MDU earlier, Minn Kota, which is here, Minn Kota Power, a lot of other places that you could be, but this is important.
It is. It is important to have our vendors here, right? We have over 210 vendors here this year, and probably everything from hose hangers to turbine and engineering booths. And so it allows those vendors to talk to our people, our procurement departments, and hopefully secure some work, in our fields.
So a lot of this comes back to relationships, whether you're a big company like Minn Kota Power or you're a smaller company or you're in the industry, a little something for everybody. And that's been a lot of the focus and where things need to be rather than where they have been in the past, because we're in a place right now from an energy perspective that is changing so fast. And we could just see from a grid security perspective and a cybersecurity perspective and some of the safety security perspectives within the industry. Talk a little bit about your role on the safety and security side of stuff. What have you had to deal with over the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years? Things have changed a lot.
They have. The days of just having open gates at the power plants are probably a thing of the past, right? So they're now more physical security, at the gates instead of just kind of an open door policy like that, and have to be approved to come in, things like that. Also on our substations, we've noticed around the regions where there's been, damage and intentional acts of terrorism to substations. So it's even securing our substations and adding more physical security to those areas, such as patrols and cameras and stuff like that. To cybersecurity, obviously, is probably the key top thing right now.
Well, we hear a lot about that in terms of grid security as well, because all the pieces that make up our electric grid, our power grid, one little place that's vulnerable and the whole thing can come down. So there's a lot of onus put on the cybersecurity side of things, because one bad actor, if the grid goes down, we're in trouble.
Absolutely. We all of our power is generated, and our industry up here runs through MISO, right? Our MISO market, it makes up of our grid stability in our area. So any excess power, we sell our Minnecota's power to mostly the eastern part of North Dakota and western Minnesota to 11 rural co-ops. And along the way, we have power lines running from Center to Grand Forks, and a lot of substations and things in between that we got to consider for physical security and cyber security. Like I said, it can take just one bad actor to take a piece of that grid down.
How lucky are we to have the co-op system that we have? Because Minnesota Power works with a lot of co-ops, like you mentioned. That's a little nuance to North Dakota, and having that extra layer of local control and local within the power system. Big benefit to rural states like North Dakota and western Minnesota.
Absolutely. Our co-ops is what basically keeps our industry running from Minnesota's perspective. And are working with our co-ops. If they have lines that go down, our linemen are right there to back
that support system.
And support, yes.
Troy, another great conference. Thanks for being chair. What's your term?
What's my term? As of tomorrow at about 3:30.
Great conference. Thanks for putting on another great show. Epic, the Energy Progress Innovation Conference here at the Bismarck Event Center. A lot of great pieces, a lot of great relationships, a lot to learn, a lot of great vendors. If you want to sign up for a one-day conference, of course, it's 2 days. You can sign up for just tomorrow. You can get in on the rest of the day. A lot of opportunities, a lot to learn here. Troy, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you for being here.
Troy Karlberg, 2024 chair. He's with Minnesota Power, Safety, and Security. Epic conference taking place at the Bismarck Event Center. We're going to talk to one of the vendors when we come back and get the vendor take on Epic. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Talk of the Town, brought to you by Big Boy. Just get in line. It moves fast. Dakota Pharmacy and Dakota Natural Health Center. We're here to help you stay well. Trademark Realty, Peak Automotive and Service, and Silver Ranch.
Super Talk.
For the ones who work hard to ensure their crew can always go the extra mile, and the ones who get in early so everyone can go home on time, there's Grainger, offering professional-grade supplies backed by product experts so you can quickly and easily find what you need. Plus, you can count on access to a committed team ready to go the extra mile for you. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
You're tuned to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bakken, broadcasting from Epic Energy Progress and Innovation Conference. And while we're here at the Bismarck Event Center broadcasting from Epic, one of the big things that has really expanded, a lot of different vendors are here. And I wanted to grab one of the vendors just for a few minutes to get a vendor's perspective of Epic. And John Tonneson joining us. He's the Director of Power and Industry with Torxil. Give us a little insight what your side of the industry works on. What's the mission? What does Torxil do for those that aren't familiar?
Yeah, so Torxil is a steel foundation company, big steel screws, and we design, manufacture, and install these screws all over the U.S. for all sorts of different projects, including electrical substations, transmission lines, oil and gas refineries, gas plants, you name it. You know, we're doing it. We even do some seawall applications down in the Gulf or buoyancy control for pipelines down in the Gulf of Mexico.
So where do you see a lot of growth? Is it on the renewable side? Is there traditional? Is there electric? Is there, because in your industry, you work in a lot of different spaces. Where's the growth?
Well, I'll just give you some perspective. So last year, our oil and gas division, which we thought was going to start to taper off, had the biggest year it's ever had. Our power division, which includes some renewables, tapered off by about half. So we did approximately $100 million in revenue for the whole company, and only 20 of that came from power and renewables. This year we're expecting to be that it'll be bigger than last year, but we don't see the acceleration rate with renewables like we once did. That's all, as you know, that's all based on tax incentives. So the solar and wind guys, it's purely tax driven. Whatever incentives they can get there.
Well, and some of the, not some, all of the carbon sequestration projects that are out there right now, those are all taxed, Q45 credits, $85 a ton. And are you seeing any work in that space, or are those projects just playing the numbers right now?
We're seeing a lot of people try to develop a cost to go out and get funding. So we bid a lot of projects. We're doing a lot of free engineering to tell somebody how much something
kind of on contingency if the project goes forward.
Right. Yeah. So we've worked with Summit Carbon Capture. We've worked with a few of the other ones that have actually they're now defunct to develop some plans. We do think and we hope that there will be some carbon capture projects along with hydrogen. We think those two areas, if we can keep coal and natural gas on burning, carbon capture and hydrogen are going to play a big role in that. So a
lot of growth in those spaces.
We think so.
Yeah. So coming back to EPIC, Energy Progress Innovation Conference, because when they changed the name back in 2020 and really got into the innovation side of stuff, that was the biggest growth piece. Opened the door for a lot of vendors. So as a vendor, what are some of the advantages you see of being at a conference like this?
Well, North Dakota is so unique because we're in all of the above energy policy. We'll do solar, wind, coal, natural gas, you name it, doesn't matter. We're going to be energy agnostic. Whatever's going to make us money, whatever we're going to do to produce that power. And these guys here have a very open mind, all these different technologies, and you've got access to everybody from a high level all the way down to the guy turning the valves in the plant. And that's what this conference is great for. You get to really meet and talk to everybody, and everybody comes and listens and wants to know exactly what you do and how you can maybe help them out. So it's a great conference.
So relationships, and that's what North Dakota's really worked on. You see a lot of that in the industry from an educational perspective, from the vendors being able to get out there in front of companies, the innovation side. How easy is it to go sit down and visit with a CEO or a VP of a company that is doing some work in different spaces as a vendor company? Pretty open, right?
Yeah, extremely. The thing that they used to say about North Dakota is you could walk into the governor's office and have a meeting as a citizen. I feel like it's the same way here. It doesn't take hardly much to really get in front of the CEO of Basin Electric.
If people want more information about TorqueSeal, how do they get that information?
Our website, www.torqueseal.com. It's TORCSILL.com.
John Tonneson, thanks for joining us. Broadcasting from EPIC Energy Progress and Innovation Conference. I'm Steve Bach, and this is Talk of the Town on a Wattage Wednesday on Super Talk 1270.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
KLXX AM, Mandan, Bismarck, a Town Square media station, broadcasting from the View Community Credit Union Studio.